Hello and welcome to our Breakthrough Maths Masterclass once again. I'm Harry, I'm our UK tutor, and today our session is for Year 10 higher mathematicians. Okay, I'm going to share my screen immediately with you and show you exactly what we'll be going through today. We're going to speed run these topics, we're going to absolutely smash it out, try and get as many questions done in the shortest amount of time possible. Nth term, inequalities, Pythagoras, and simultaneous equations. These are all very tricky topics, but the important stuff you need to know for your exams coming up. Okay, starting off with nth term. All right, and this is something that will come up in every single GCSE. I can't remember the last time it didn't come up. That goes with every single one of these topics. So you have to get these locked in. You need to know these. Starting off, example one, find the nth term of the sequence. We've got 6, 10, 14, and 18. And those of you that haven't seen this before could still probably make quite a good guess of what we might have to do here. All right. What you want to identify is what is the gap between the numbers that I'm looking at here. We've got 6, 10, 14, and 18. So we can quite clearly see that it jumps +4 every single time on each number. So 6, 10, 14, 18. We know it goes up by 4. That means our nth term or our first part of the nth term of our equation is going to be 4n. We know that much. And then it's not just going to be 4n. We need either a plus or minus something, okay? Plus or minus a constant. So essentially, the way we do this is work out what our zero term would be. What would be the number before our first term in the sequence? And we can quite clearly see that if it's increasing by 4 every time, we just have to subtract 4. So if we subtract 4 from 6, we get 2, leaving our sequence to be 4n plus 2. Fairly straightforward. Hopefully that made sense. All right, moving on. Example 2, find the nth term of the sequence. This one's slightly different, all right? What can we see in here? Hopefully you're all thinking we can see some negative numbers. This does not change anything about what we do. We're doing the exact same thing, but in this case, we're starting from a positive number and going to negative. So that must mean we're decreasing. Once again, the exact same process, nothing changes. We're just going to have some negative numbers involved. So hopefully you're screaming at your laptops telling me what is the difference between these numbers each jump, and it stays the same every single time. So how much does it go down by? Very nicely done. Those of you that said -5 or it goes down by 5, you are absolutely bang on. So once again, we're going to have -5n. Okay, this one slightly different, but we're looking to find our zero term, the one before our first term. If it's minusing 5 every time, we have to do the opposite. We have to add 5 to our first term. So we add 5 to 6, and that hopefully you'd all be able to tell me, you little geniuses, that that is going to be 11. So -5n plus 11 is our answer here. Okay, example 3. Find the 52nd term of this sequence. All right, so this is a little bit of a different one. This one, we're obviously allowed to use our calculators. And those of you that wouldn't know how to do this, I really hope you wouldn't just find the nth term and then go, oh, this one's the 5th, 6th, 7th, and go all the way up to 52nd, because that would waste about 5 minutes and it is really not worth the marks. So I'm here to teach you a much quicker method to do that. So first of all, what we want to do, we want to find our nth term. We want to find that formula that we've been doing for the previous ones. So we can work this out fairly quickly. We've got, all right, we need to find the gap between each of these numbers. So 13 to 19, 19 to 25, and 25 to 31 gives us 6. Therefore, it's going to be 6n. Okay, and I want you to think in your head, I want you to write it down. I want you to tell me, shout at your laptops, scream at me, what is this plus going to be? All right. Those of you that said 7, you are absolutely bang on. All right. So we've got 6n plus 7, but we know we're not quite done. Now that we've got this, we can substitute in the value we've been asked for. So that n value is going to be substituted by that number 52 that we've got. So we're trying to find the 52nd term in the sequence. We've got the formula for the sequence. So all we have to do is plug that 52 into our sequence and we will get our answer. Okay. As I said before, you're more than welcome to use a calculator for this. So what we're going to do is 6 times 52 plus 7. That is going to give us our answer. So 6 times 52 is going to give us 312, I believe. I'm a genius, so don't try to correct me. I know that is right. I hope. Only joking, guys. Right, 312 plus 7. You geniuses would be able to tell me that that is 319. And I really hope I'm right. So that is how we do these type of questions. Moving on. As I said, we are speed running this stuff, guys. We're going as quickly as possible. We get as much done. If you do need to slow down the video or pause it at any time, you are more than welcome to do so. Speaking of pausing it, here are some questions. We've got 2 questions on the nth term, 2 ones that we've just done very recently. I want you to pause the video, all right? Do these questions, write it down on a bit of paper, on a whiteboard, on your iPad, whatever you have, and come back and see if you can get these right, okay? I'll give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Whilst you're there, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Okay, to those of you that did pause the video and go through this, very nicely done. Regardless of whether or not you've got these right, at least you've tried, okay? Those of you that didn't pause the video, I'm very disappointed. All right, I'm very, very disappointed. And that's all we need to leave it at. Okay, we'll go through this. I'm going to speed run these. I'm just going to tell you the answer, okay? So this one, it goes up by 7 each time, meaning it's 7n, and therefore our previous term is going to be 1. So 7n plus 1. Okay, fantastic. And then find the 24th term. So we do the same thing. We know it's decreasing by 3 every single time, and it's going to be plus 4. All right, so minus 3n plus 4, we substitute this in. So we do minus 3 times 24 to give us negative 72. Add that 4 to give us negative 68. And 68 minus 68 is our 24th term. Hopefully that all made sense. Well done to those of you that got that right. If you didn't, you'll get the next ones. Okay, moving on to inequalities. This is one of the worst topics in maths, and I stand by this. Look, I'm a massive neek, all right? And I love maths. I love a lot of maths. Inequalities are silly, all right? They actually are. And I just, even though they're very similar to the rest of like solving equations and stuff like that, I just don't like them. The way I do remember them, though, is with this little post-it note on the right-hand side here, this little purple post-it note. All right, I learned this in primary school, and it's actually helped me out. The crocodile eats the bigger number. So if you imagine that this little thing, I'm trying to get this perfect. All right, the crocodile's mouth is like that, so it will always eat the bigger number. Remember that. Get that in your head, and you will actually be able to get these right. If you do struggle with these, those of you that don't, you're a genius anyway, and you don't even need to listen to me. So in this one, x is greater than the value that we have. So if the crocodile's teeth are facing towards the x, and therefore it's greater than, the opposite goes here. If that little pointy bit is facing towards the x, then it is going to be lower. And then if there's a line underneath, okay, it means that it is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, respectively. If you haven't got these down, I recommend you do. You can pause the video to do it. But this is definitely something that is going to help us throughout this little session here and in the rest of your mathematics journey. So we've got a little example here. When x is greater than or equal to 8, the value of x is greater than or equal to 8. There we go. So that's what we see. It's just showing you how it looks like in a little sentence. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Let's get on to some questions. So our first example, write a number that satisfies the inequality of this. All right, I'm going to let you think for a second. We're only writing one number, so what could this be, guys? All right, there are 2 choices that you could have in this scenario, and if any of you said 7 or 8, you would be absolutely bang on, okay? This little sign is showing us that the number is greater than 6, okay? So it has to be higher than 6, all right? So it can't be 6, it has to be higher. And then on this side, it's showing it is less than 8, but it can also be equal to 8, leaving our 2 possibilities to be 7 and 8. All right. Of course, you could have decimals involved here as well if you wanted to be a neek and say those, but I wouldn't accept that as a right answer just simply because that is too nerdy. All right. Secondly, moving on. Example 2, write an inequality for a number that is less than or equal to 14. Okay. So this is something we're going to have to work out ourselves. I'm going to give you the answer to this one. But again, I want you to write this down. Write it down on your iPad. Write it down in your notes. What do you think this is going to be? All right. I'll give you 2 seconds to do that. and I'm going to do the same thing. All right. We know that 14 is going to be involved. We know that much. All right. We also know that X is going to be involved. It doesn't have to be X. You could have chosen any letter you want. I'm going to choose H because that my name is Harry, so therefore it's going to be H. All right. It doesn't matter. So let's write this H here. We're just looking to find what sign this is going to be. So write a number for an inequality. So write an inequality for a number that is less than or equal to 14. So 14 is going to be bigger than this number. We know that much. So therefore, the crocodile has to be facing the 14. All right. The mouth is eating the 14, and we're also told that it's less than or equal to. So therefore, we're going to draw that line underneath, and that is our inequality. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, go back and rewatch it. All right. So once again, we've got some more inequalities where, oh, this is the exact same page. All right. But just with an extra thing. So skip those first two. My apologies. Um, Example 3, this one is for you to do at home. All right. Those of you that didn't pause the video last time, what are you playing at? All right. Those of you that did, give this a go again. All right. I want to see everyone pause the video. I want to see the statistics on YouTube show that no one watched for about 2 minutes at this point. All right. Give this a go, and I'm going to go through it in about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hopefully you didn't find that too bad. Those of you that attempted it once again, thank you very much. You're making these things a lot easier. All right. So write down two numbers that satisfy the inequality. -6 is less than or equal to y, which is less than 0. So we're looking for numbers essentially between -6 and 0. That's all it is. All right. However, because we don't have a line underneath this inequality on the right hand side, it means that it cannot be equal to 0. All right. So therefore, it could be anything. So if you guys said any numbers that are -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, or -1, if you said any two out of them, you would be absolutely bang on. Once again, if you said any decimals, I'm not accepting you to be right because that is too sneaky. However, if you were to do that in the exam, you'd be bang on. All right. However, if it were to say integers, integers means whole numbers, and therefore you actually wouldn't get it right. But because I've not been very specific and I've just written numbers, then you would be right. So we'll give it to you. Okay, moving on to one of the greatest topics in the history of mathematics. All right, and that is Pythagoras' theorem. Everything is so satisfying, it just makes sense. Okay, those of you that have never seen this before, you're going to be mind blown as to how amazing this is. All right. Those of you that have seen it, you're probably thinking, what is this guy on about? This is the most boring topic of all time. But genuinely, it is great fun. So, Pythagoras' theorem. One of the first things you have to learn in maths when you do trigonometry, Pythagoras, any of that sort of thing, is how to label a right angle triangle. And this is so important. A lot of people forget about it and then they're like, oh, I don't know which one the adjacent or the opposite is. All right. And that really screws them over because you can lose marks, especially in trigonometry. Doesn't matter too much on Pythagoras, to be fair. Okay. The hypotenuse is always the longest side of the triangle. All right. You can't gauge that just by looking at it. The only thing you can do is identify it by looking at it, seeing which one is opposite that right angle. Okay, in this case, we can quite clearly see that opposite the right angle in this triangle is the hypotenuse. All right, that one I would say is the easiest to identify. All right, the adjacent, which means next to. Okay, those of you that didn't know, I think it's Latin or something. Adjacent means next to. So the adjacent is next to the angle of interest. And when I say the angle of interest, I mean the one that is identified in the question. All right, the one you've selected. So in this case, it is that X, and therefore the adjacent is next to it. It is touching it. And the opposite is opposite that angle. Okay, so once you found two of them, you can narrow it down. Okay, so as I said, it doesn't matter too much about the adjacent and opposite in Pythagoras' theorem. The only one you 100% have to identify every time is the hypotenuse. So, Pythagoras' theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Easy to remember. By the end of this session, I expect you to remember it. If I were to walk up to you in the street in 2 years' time and say, yo, tell me Pythagoras' theorem, and you couldn't tell me, then I don't even know what you're doing. It is the easiest thing to remember. You won't get it on the formula sheet, so it's something you have to remember, but it's very, very easy. Okay, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That c, the one you have to know, all right, and that's the important, is that c is always the hypotenuse. All right, c is the hypotenuse, the adjacent and the opposite. It doesn't really matter whether or not that's a and b. You can interchange them because if you're adding them together anyway, it's going to give you the same answer. So in this case, we're asked to calculate the length of side x. So this one at the bottom here. So we label our triangle, okay? We find our hypotenuse, which is quite clearly the 16 centimeters. And we can plug this into our Pythagoras theorem equation. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? I'm going to take, so this one is the adjacent. So x squared plus 9 squared, because that's our opposite, is equal to 16 squared. Okay. Of course, for this one, you are allowed to use a calculator. In the exam, they may not actually know. You definitely would be given a calculator for this. So don't worry if you're thinking, how on earth am I meant to do this? So x squared plus 9 squared, so plus 81. Okay. So hopefully all of you be able to tell me that 9 squared is 81 is equal to 16 squared. All right. What is 16 squared? Those of you that know this off the top of your head, you're a genius, all right? You don't even need to be doing these classes. I'm joking. Well, if you're here, you're probably here for a reason, although it was probably your mum that made you sit down in front of this. And I know you're probably not even looking. You're scrolling through TikTok at this current moment in time, which I completely understand. Anyway, 16 squared is going to give us the answer of 256. Okay. Now, what do we do from here? Those of you that are saying we make x the subject, you are absolutely bang on. If anyone did say that, give yourself a pat on the back, all right? In order to do that, oh, I've just absolutely slammed my desk. My apologies if you heard that. So, what are we going to have to do in order to make x the subject here? And before we square root it, because that is something we're going to have to do, we're going to have to subtract this 81 from both sides, okay? In order to do that, well, we're going to get x squared is equal to 256 minus 81, which is going to give us an answer of 175. Okay, so x squared is equal to 175, and I really hope I've got that right. So we're now going to take the square root of 175. Of course, plug this into your calculator, okay? The square root of 175 should give us an answer of around 13.2, I'm going to say. If I'm actually right with this, then I'm a genius, and I don't even know. Lo and behold, I'm right. 13.2. Okay, 13.2 centimeters is our answer. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. This one, I know we've only done one question, but it's your go. Okay. Once again, pause the video, see how well you get on with this. I'll give you a clue. Your answer should be a whole number. So if you're getting a decimal, you've done something wrong. Give it a go. You should be getting a whole number. All right. Pause the video, come back in a minute, and let's see if you've got it right. Okay, once again, those of you that pause the video, very well done. Even if you haven't got it right, let's hope you got that whole number, and hopefully it's the whole number we're looking for. So we can quite clearly see that this x centimeters is the hypotenuse once again. So we know it's going to be 3 and 4 as the a and b. So 3 squared plus 4 squared is going to give us x squared. All right, and don't forget that squared. It doesn't just give us x. All right, it gives us x squared. So you really have to be careful with that, because a lot of people would do this. They'd be like, oh, I've got it, and then not square root it afterwards and get an answer that is not quite right. Okay, so 3 squared plus 4 squared. So we've got 9 plus 16 is equal to x squared. So therefore, 25 is equal to x squared. All right, hopefully a lot of you would be able to tell me now that if we square root this answer, okay, we get x to be 5 centimeters. Those of you that got that right, give yourself a pat on the back. Very nicely done. Okay, and one more on Pythagoras' theorem. This one a little bit different to the ones we've seen before. Only a little bit, just because this triangle is rotated a little bit, okay? So I want you guys think in your head, which one of these is the hypotenuse? And remember what I said at the beginning. It's not necessarily the slanted side, okay? It is the longest side, and it is opposite the right angle, Okay, so those of you that thought 42 centimeters, very nicely done. That is indeed our hypotenuse. So we're going to do this formula once again. So x squared plus 17 squared is equal to 42 squared. All right. This one, unfortunately, I will not be able to do in my head. So 42 squared gives us an answer of 1764. 17 squared gives us an answer of 289. Okay, so all we have to do now, x squared is equal to 1764 minus 289, which is 1475, and then square root that to get our answer. Square root answer, and that is going to give us 38.4. Okay. Very nicely done. Moving on to our last topic of the evening, and it is simultaneous equations, the best topic in GCSE Maths by a country mile. If you disagree, leave this session. Right? I know a lot of you will disagree because no one really finds this fun apart from me. I do these in my spare time, uh, just for the fun of it. I'm obviously joking, but I promise you I'm not joking. Anyway, our goal here is to cancel out one of the variables by adding or subtracting the equations. What I mean by that is either removing the x's or removing the y's by adding or subtracting one of these equations. All right. So in this one, it's been put on a plate for us. Okay. We've been given a through ball. We've been given an open goal. All right. And we just have to tap it in. So as we can see, the x's and the y's are the same in both equations. We've got one x, one y, one x, and one y, which is what we love to see. Okay, that is the aim. Before normally we'd have to interchange something in order to make it so the x's and the y's are the same. We've got it bang on here. All right. So what we can do, we can either add or subtract these equations. It actually doesn't matter in this case because the x's and the y's are the same, as I've said. So what I'm going to do is add these equations together and see what happens. And you will see exactly what happens. So if we put a plus sign here, add these together. So x plus x, hopefully you'll be able to tell me that gives us 2x. We then have y plus minus y. So y minus y to give us 0. It gives us nothing, which is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, we've then got 10 plus 2 to give us 12. So 2x is equal to 12. I hope you'd all be able to tell me then that x is equal to 6. All right, amazing. Now that we've done that, what we do, we substitute. Okay, we're going to take that x that we found out to be and sub it into one of our equations. I'm going to choose this top one here. So x plus y is equal to 10. So we can change that x to a 6. So 6 plus y is equal to 10. And then we make y the subject to this, and we get y to be 4. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Moving on, this one. 4x plus 3y equals 7.5, and 3x minus 5y equals 10.7. All right, wow. So it's not exactly an easy question. It is definitely a lot more challenging than the one we've done before. All right, and as I said before, we were set up on a plate last time. This one, not so much. We're trying to make either the x's or y's the same, and there are multiple ways we can do that. But essentially what we're looking to do is find our lowest common multiple of either the x's or the y's. So in this case, if we take the x's, all right, what is the lowest common multiple of 4 and 3? Hopefully all of you are telling me 12. All right, so what we have to do is it's sort of like when you add fractions together. All right, you have to make the denominators the same, and whatever you do to one the bottom, you have to do to the top. Okay, is the exact same here. So if we're trying to make this 4x become 12x, we need to times this entire top equation by 3. And then we have to do the same on the bottom. We have to times it by 4 though to get that 3x to become 12x. Okay, so if we do this, all right, we're going to get 12x plus 9y is equal to 22.5. We do the same for the bottom one, and we get 12x minus 20y is equal to, oh, this is going to test me here, is equal to 42.8. Okay, I hope I've got those wrong. Chances are I have because I'm a genius. Anyway, moving on. Guys, by the way, I am joking. I'm not a massive narcissist. Uh, I am very humble, as you can tell. So what we have to do now is subtract these equations from each other. We're trying to remove these x's because we've made them the same. So if we do that, all right, we're going to have 12x minus 12x to give us 0, which is what we're looking for. We then have 9y minus 20y. So hopefully the smart bunch of you will be able to tell me that that is 29y, positive 29y. Okay, because two negatives make a positive, and we add them together. And then 22.5 subtract 42.8. This is what I'm going to have to do on my calculator, unfortunately. I'm not that good. 42.8. And that would give us minus 20.3. Okay. And we can make this a little bit easier for ourselves by making y the subject here. So to make y the subject, we have to divide by 29 on both sides. All right. And this will give us an answer of minus 7 over 10 or minus 0.7. Okay. So y is equal to negative 0.7. And once again, all we have to do here is sub this back into one of these equations at the top. So I'm going to choose this one, the one at the top. So we've got 4x plus 3y is equal to 7.5. So 4x plus 3y equals 7.5. We replace this y here with the value for y that we've got, which is minus 0.7. So 4x plus 3 lots of negative 0.7 is equal to 7.5. Okay, so if we simplify this, we get 4x minus 2.1 is equal to 7.5. Simplify it once again, okay, and we get 4x is equal to 9.6. All right, and then do that on our calculator if you need to get the answer of 2.4. So x is equal to 2.4. So x equals to 2.4, y is equal to minus 0.7. Hopefully that made sense. And that was quite a tricky one. I would say those type of questions would give you at least 4 marks in your exam, maybe even 5. All right. And moving on to our final question of the day. And this is one I want you guys to give a go for yourself. Okay. I know there are decimals in there, but I promise you it's not too difficult. Just remember what we have to do first. We have to make either those x's or y's the same. And once you've done that, it's quite smooth sailing. Okay. Give it a go. Pause the video and make it good for our last question of the day. All right. If anyone gets this right, I'll be very impressed. Let's go through it as quickly as possible. So what I would do, and it doesn't matter which way around you do this, you can make either the x's or the y's the same as long as you do the right thing and cancel out one of them. I'm going to make the y's the same because in this situation, you only have to do one set of multiplication. And that is multiplying this top one by 2. Okay. So if we multiply this top one by 2, we're going to get 4x plus 2y is equal to 13. All right, and then I'm going to just write the second equation underneath it is equal to 4.5. What I'm going to do is add both of these equations together to cancel out these y's. So we get 7x is equal to 17.5. All right, once again, use your calculator for this. So 17.5 divided by 7 will give us 5 over 2 or 2.5. So x is equal to 2.5. All right, use this and sub it into this top equation here. So 2 times 2.5 will give us 5 plus y is equal to 6.5. So clearly y is just 1.5. So our answer is there. X is equal to 2.5, y is equal to 1.5, and that is that. Once again, if you got that right, you are amazing. All right. And to celebrate that, you can sign up to our course, which will be tutored by myself, breakthroughmaths.co.uk. All right. We might have a couple of offers going, see how that goes for you. But hopefully you've enjoyed today's session. Thank you very much for tuning in and take care, my friends. Goodbye.